please be seated. Well, it has been a week of rainbows here at St. Andrews. We had rainbows on the physical and virtual prayer cards for our Healing Eucharist, and we celebrate our LGBTQ plus community at the Casey Pride Fest this weekend. Courtesy of my 5th grade science teacher, Mrs. Carlson, may her soul continue to rest in peace, the colors of the rainbow are Roygbiv: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Every rainbow in nature has these 7 colors in that order. A fact noted by Enlightenment physicist and thinker Isaac Newton in a 1665 experiment involving a crystal prism. Rainbows do have more colors than 7, but these are the colors we can see within our human visual spectrum. But the psalmist totally misses all the colors of the rainbow in our selection from Psalm 34 this morning. He's just thinking in black and white, righteous versus wicked, good versus evil, us versus them. Black and white thinking is an easy place to be during a time of crisis and uncertainty, living in one extreme or another, judging out of fear, and letting thoughts, words, and deeds stagnate into the safe and familiar with no space to embrace or celebrate difference. I've been wrestling with black and white thinking this week myself in regards to the situation in Afghanistan. War has raged there my entire lifetime. I spent a summer in Seattle during seminary as a chaplain intern serving soldiers in the spinal cord injury unit who became permanently paralyzed during that conflict. The human rights violations of the Taliban regime horrify and sicken me. And hearing of women being brutalized as an interpretation of religious law just takes me to a place of rage and despair. Asking how the Taliban and I believe in the same God can way too easily become a slippery slope of us versus them in my mind. If I lump in all Muslim peoples and cultures as evil or wicked, along with the Taliban, I begin perpetuating the same hatred and dehumanization that the Taliban themselves inflict upon those whose beliefs and values are different than theirs. King David, attributed author of Psalm 34, lived in a world of war, as he and his armies continually struggled to preserve the autonomy and freedom of the kingdom of Israel in a region of neighbors vying for power. Philistia, home of the giant Goliath, was one such neighbor. King David fought Goliath as a young man and spent a good chunk of his lifetime at war with Goliath's people. Did King David indulge in black and white thinking in regards to his enemy from a place of fear or despair? Psalm 34 is traditionally a hymn of praise and thanksgiving from David and his soldiers after surviving a battle against the Philistines. The first half of the psalm, which we didn't hear this morning, emphasizes God's goodness and mercy to David and his people. Then there's the second half, which we did hear this morning, where David refers to his enemy, the Philistines, in black and white language: righteous versus wicked, Israel versus Philistia, us versus them. God, per the psalmist, hears the righteous. God turns God's face against the wicked to remove their very memory from the earth. By the end, my heart goes out to those identified as wicked. Evil shall slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous shall be punished. Did God really punish the Philistines and David's other enemies? Who is wicked and who isn't? Whoa, am I wicked? I know I'm human, and I definitely sin in thought, word, and deed, and I neglect to love my neighbor as myself too often. But I suspect you might too. Life is hard enough without questions like this. Let me assure you, God is not punishing you or me or anyone else with a global pandemic, with grief and loss, or with chronic pain or disability. God is not punishing you or me or anyone else with financial or marital challenges, with cancer, other life-threatening illnesses, with prejudice or discrimination, with family problems, or with war or natural disasters. No, not our God of love. God is right here with us in times of trial, as he's with Joshua and Israel at the end of their 40-year journey through the wilderness. God's right here with us in our questions and doubts, as he was with the disciples in their confusion about exactly how is Jesus the bread from heaven. God, our God, is a God of love who does not leave us or forsake us. Our God is both immanent, with us here now, in the smile of a friend or the kind word of a stranger. God is also transcendent, stretching our hearts and minds infinitely towards heaven in praise and adoration through music, poetry, art, compassion, or prayer. Awe-filled moments like these on our spiritual journeys mark our journeys as colorfully as sunlight through a stained glass window, because God is that good. The psalmist never does credit God with punishing the wicked. Evil punishes the wicked. The Lord ransoms the life of his servants, and none will be punished who trust in him. So there is our good news this morning. Trusting in God ensures our righteousness. We are righteous because we journey with God. Our path is right because God is with us as we listen and pray and discern God's call and what's next in our adventures together. No judgment, no punishment. Those black and white overtones, in my opinion, were King David's inherent human bias after a really hard run with the Philistines. On God's side, there's just love and trust. God did not create us to be black or white, pointing fingers at our enemies and subsequently deeming them wicked. God created us each as vibrant and unique as the sparkling colors of a rainbow through a prism that we can't see through our spectrum of vision. But God sees. God knows. We each have our own gifts and stories, passions and accomplishments that glorify the God who created us when we share them generously with God and the world. God sees us. God knows us. God celebrates us all as beloved and blessed. As we journey on our own multicolored path as a community of faith here at St. Andrews, may we celebrate our righteousness, our trusted path together with God, as we learn and discern and live and serve and worship and grow together. And may we never stop looking for rainbows.